Yes, I did become more aerodynamic just for this episode, and yes, my lap time has improved. I didn't really get the whole mechanical keyboard thing literally until this moment right here. That is so clean. Oh, it's heavy too.
It's heavy.
It's real heavy, dude.
Yeah, it's an absolute
kill
monster.
somebody with this thing.
Yeah.
Holy crap, look at that. Like, you can literally see a spark go off in my head. And I was definitely thinking that this is way cooler than I actually thought it would be. Now, fast forward a few weeks till now, and I have some thoughts on this thing. I want to send a huge thank you to the guy who built this, which is Brian with Badseed Tech. He has a YouTube channel. I'm a keyboard noob, and he took time out of his busy schedule to really go above and beyond for this thing. And I really appreciate it, Brian. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. He makes some really high quality content. So this is it. This is the final product. It's so sick. I love it so much. This is a 75% keyboard. The case is a GMMK Pro made with CNC'd aluminum. This thing is an absolute brick. Now, this was originally a silver color. That's their white, is actually a silver, which is weird. And one of the things that he did to really make this thing stand out was go get it Cerakoted. So it's actually a white, and it looks glorious. Sorry. The switches are H1 linears, and they're lubed up with 205G0, and they're filmed with desk keys. Some of that stuff goes a little bit over my head, but that's what I've been told on this. Still learning, so give me some time to catch up here. The cable is from Space Cables. It's a super sick white and black. It totally fits the theme, and it's finished in a USB-C to adapt to the board. Now, the weight of this whole board is pretty beefy. It's heavier than 3 beers, but less than 4. And yes, this is my new favorite measurement technique. Now, normally I would do a quick flex test, but this thing is juiced to the gills as a keyboard. Like, there's literally no point. It's really dense. Now, there are 2 spots on this board where I really wanted to kind of add my own personal touches, and I really liked the idea of going with more of a space-themed board. So I got this cool keycap from Etsy. It's kind of got this glittery galaxy swirl all the way down, and then you can see there's this little floating astronaut guy. I love the look of this thing. It just, I think, looks super sick. There's a link where you can pick it up down below, though as a single keycap, it's about 50 bucks, so it's pretty pricey. Now, the second area is actually somewhere where I actually think I could use a little bit of help. Brian brought up the idea of replacing this thing with a guitar knob, but I actually want to continue on this more space theme with this thing. So if you have any good recommendations for what I should put on the volume dial, I'd love to hear it, because I was kind of trying to find like a little rocket ship or something like that, but I couldn't find anything that really fit the aesthetic. So let me know what you find in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Now, RGB is used pretty sparingly on this board, which honestly I don't mind. There are these 2 strips along the sides, and then you have a very subtle underglow underneath the keycaps. Now, Brian could have made this brighter if you used clear both caps and switches, but I actually like how subtle it is. And actually at the right angles, you can actually see these little glittery kind of starry pops of light coming through the spaces between the keys. And I actually think it kind of adds to the space effect in this weird sort of way. Now, one of the things I like about the lighting here, and one of the benefits of it being so subtle, is I don't feel like the aesthetic of the keyboard is focused on how the lights are shining through. And I like that the lighting of the keyboard really feels like an additive rather than the entire purpose for the build here. And it really allows the aesthetics of the actual keycaps and the structure of the case itself to really shine a little bit more than the lights. Now, speaking of keycaps, let's talk about these things. So the first caps that this came with are Polycaps PBT black on whites. And these were a little bit more traditionally shaped, a little slight curve on the top, but the second pair, the ones I have on here now, are definitely the ones I like the most. One, I not only think these things look sick, adding a little bit of character with the slightly curved edges and the very deep grooves for the fingers, but they're actually a joy to use once you get over that slight adjustment period. These are the drop Mt3 keycaps. On the top, these do feel a little bit smaller than you might be used to. And again, the groove is a little bit more aggressive than you might be used to, especially on the F and the J key, which have the deepest pockets I think I've ever seen. My adaptation to this keyboard from a really flat profile, the G915 TKL, was about a day, and then this felt clearly superior for the typing experience for me. Now, some people with a little bit more sensitive hands might hit the edges of the key, this little lip around sort of this cradle that holds your finger. I definitely hit it quite a lot when I'm typing. Now, if you have more sensitive hands, this might annoy you. For me, it doesn't bug me at all, but it was an aspect to the typing experience. That being said, it's totally an issue with my typing technique. So if you have better technique than I do, this probably won't even be a problem. Issues with the board though. I do have 3 main issues that I find with the board. One is that the layout of the navigation keys makes me hit the end key a lot rather than the right arrow key. I use this a lot for watching videos on YouTube, and while I'm editing. Now I've tried to adapt to this, but even after a few weeks, I still hit it about just as much as I did before. I do think that I need to replace that end key with a lower profile key to not hit it as much, but it may just be a layout thing because the arrow keys are placed in a slightly unorthodox area, especially being a little bit lower than the rest of the keyboard. The second thing is that sometimes I'll just get a sticky key in the software. So I'll just be randomly typing, and then if I hit G, it'll go G, 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 right, indefinitely until I unplug and replug the keyboard in. This is probably a software thing, so I'll be looking out for software updates to fix this. My third complaint is that these keycaps, the delete key, is a little bit lower profile than the rest of the keys on the board, which is a little bit infuriating. I do use the delete key a lot in my day-to-day life between editing and deleting strongly worded emails. Now I'm probably going to butcher the explanation of the typing experience here because I've never done it before, so bear with me here. The typing experience does feel extremely linear, like the switch name suggests that we're using on here. Every single key also feels extremely consistent, like weirdly consistent. And I'm not sure if this is because Brian put it together and he's basically a pro at this stuff, so he's making sure that everything is feeling exactly like it needs to feel, or if this is one of the benefits of having an extremely stiff keyboard. So the keys on the very edges of the board, the very top of the board, the very center of the board, they all feel exactly the same. And that switch consistency is not something I've been used to on kind of just traditional keyboards that you would buy pre-made. The board does have a slight acoustic change depending on where you are on the keyboard. So the middle of the keys sound a little bit different than the very edge keys, but it's not really that big of a deal. And I personally don't mind it. I like a little bit of sound diversity. Also, you get some sonic diversity on the bigger keycaps, of course, like the space key and the shift key, stuff like that. I think the rest of the typing experience is made up of how your fingers specifically land on the keyboard. And I really actually like the way that the top of the keycaps are spaced out from one another. They're a little bit more spaced out than what a traditional keyboard would be, and they're definitely more spaced out than what I was coming from before, being the 915 TKL. So before I embarrass myself, I'm going to stop there with the explanation of the typing experience. And I guess now we got the conclusion here. This is a fantastic keyboard, Brian. Like, honestly, it's great. I wish you could just go buy this somewhere. This is a really, really wonderful. I really appreciate, though, the tangibility of this thing. It feels nice to use. It feels substantial. When you move it around, when you're just handling it, it feels like very high quality. And I think that's what a lot of keyboard enthusiasts are kind of seeking, but it's one of those things where you don't really get it until you've done it. And so I appreciate that Brian gave me the opportunity to actually use this thing, because it's very impressive. And going back to that 915 right now, it feels kind of like a toy, which kind of sucks because that thing was pretty pricey. But I totally understand why somebody would desire something like this, and I think I've definitely got the bug. I'm excited to jump into this hobby. I think it's got a lot of available things to learn. There seems to be a lot of layers that I wasn't even aware of, and I would really enjoy jumping into that. Now, from what it seems like, a keyboard review would not be complete without a sound demo. So here is the sound demo. And until the next video, guys, my name's Josh, signing off. Peace.